Mark Twain once said, "Why waste money looking up your family tree? Just go into politics and your opponent will do it for you." In case you don't want to do that and want to find the information for yourself, genealogists use the United States Census as a tool to help find their ancestors. I'm always excited when I can find an ancestor on the census. It's like a snapshot of your family at that moment in time. Today, I'm going to show you how to find someone on the census. I accessed Ancestry Library Edition at my local library. The website has to be accessed in the library, and it's free with my library card. I was able to make copies for my records. The census has to be private for 72 years, so genealogists work backwards. They start with what they know. So the 1940 census is the most current census available to us. The 1950 census will be released, I think, in April of 2022. So I'm excited to be able to see that. I decided to start with my mother, who was born in 1927. I accessed the search engine for the census on Ancestry. I typed my mother's first name, her maiden name, and her name was spelled Wanita, Dickey. And I put her birthplace, her birth year. And when I did that, I received two results: the 1940 census and the 1930 census. And I clicked on the 1940 census. The next box that I received looks like this. It's an overview of what information appears on that census, on the actual census. On this side, you can see that there are other records that show up in Ancestry with her particular name. Notice that at some point her spelling of her name changes. When she was in the 7th grade, her teacher kept sending her papers back to her with the spelling Juanita. I wish she hadn't done that, because I thought Juanita, the way it was spelled, was kind of unique. So to click on, or to get to the actual census, I clicked on the View tab, and I received this view. This is a copy of the 1940 census. I've highlighted the area where my family, my mother and her parents appear. They lived in Lincoln Township in Dallas County, Missouri. My mother is 12, and she's living with her parents and her siblings. It tells that she was born in Missouri, as well as her parents, and that they were living in the same house in 1935. And my grandfather is a farmer. So then I decided to go to the 1930 census. This is a copy of the 1930 census. My mother is living in the household with her parents. She was 2 at her last birthday. You will also see that my grandparents are living with my great-grandparents, which gives me another generation. Now that I know the name of my great-grandfather, then I will be able to go and look for him. My great-grandfather was born in Ohio, and my great-grandmother my great-grandfather was born in Ohio. My great-great-grandparents were born, grandfather was born in Ohio, and my great-great-grandmother was born in Kentucky. And on the 1930 census, they asked if you had a radio, and they did not have a radio at that point. I know that my grandfather did have a radio in his life at some point because he loved music. So now that I know the name of my great-grandfather, I searched the census for him. His name was Harrison, Harrison. But as you will see from this view over here, there was a unusual spelling of Harrison, which is on the 1920 census. Now, this view for the census happens to be the 1880 census, and there you will see my great-great-grandparents, my great-great-grandfather and grandmother. So that takes me back another generation, and I would also be able to search for their names. So I clicked on the 1920 census to take me to that census. And this is the 1920 census. And there you can see why the enumerator had a hard time understanding the name. These are copies of the census that the actual census taker sent in. So if the handwriting wasn't very good, they would have problems deciphering that, and they did the best they could. They didn't intentionally mean to change the name, but sometimes it just happened. In this census, I can see that the names of my grandfather's siblings, and he had twin sisters, Winona and Leona. They also could, in this part, these headings are so hard to read, but there are copies that you can get that tell you what all of these headings actually say. But this is the column that tells whether they could read or write. And they could read and write. So, today I have shown you examples of how to find your family using the census. On this census, we learned the people's age, their birth year, their birthplace, their occupation, whether they were educated. So I'm encouraging you to explore the census to see what you can find about your family. You might be surprised. So I will leave you with this thought. Old genealogists never die. They just lose their census.